right. Well, here it is. We are live in Conway, episode 15, season finale of season 1 of Are You Cirrus? We did it.
We're doing this.
We had a little bit of a slight technical delay, but we are up and we are live and we are doing this with a live crowd.
Live crowd. Live on YouTube.
There it is. There it is.
I see cocktails in the background.
Cocktails are flowing. It is Hurricanes and Happy Hour, as we have been saying all week long. And it has been a really, really good week here for Hurricane Week.
Yeah, really busy week. We were talking about when we were like, all right, should we attempt a live podcast? And if so, what would that look like? And we thought, with Hurricane Florence and Bonfire being closed for more than a year, and we knew Conway was a staple in the area, the walk-em-off. It's beautiful out here first.
It is.
This was the culmination of, let's try Conway.
Yeah.
So before we get started, I don't even know if he's out here. Darren, the owner of Conway.
I see him back there
he's
somewhere.
Back there. Let's give it
up.
up.
Right here in the front row.
Let's give it up for Darren and his wife and everybody helping us accommodate to this.
Absolutely.
So that's been awesome. We have 28 people on YouTube.
28 people on YouTube, which is good. And I do want to say we've got a couple of VIP people here.
Okay.
That we need to address and say hello to tonight. She's probably not even listening and probably can't even hear me. Judy, can you hear me? We got Judy way in the back. I went to Judy's house last summer to wish her granddaughter, a happy birthday.
Okay.
And she has kept up with me ever since, and she has been here since 4 o'clock this afternoon. So I want to say a hello to Judy. Our next super VIP is Rose.
Rose.
If you follow any of us, you know Rose. She is the mom of WMBF News. Rose brings us food when we have hurricanes on the way. She stops us. She stalks me on the beach. Let me tell you a story about me and Rose last weekend. I'm sitting on the beach, getting my tan, having a cocktail, and when you're on the beach and you look at your phone and you can't really see much, I see a message on Twitter, and I pull it up, and it's a picture of me sitting on the beach. And I'm like, who took this picture? And it terrified me for a second. And then I realized it was Rose. She was literally sitting right in front of me. So we had a great conversation catching up.
And Rose, you have to keep that beach location secret now.
Yeah.
You can't. No one needs to know what avenue that was.
We saw each other in our bathing suits, Rose. We did. So no one else knows where that happens. We have Mark here on the front row.
Mark.
Who is the man with all the questions.
Yeah.
Amazing questions who we actually have to kind of think about sometimes.
Complicated, but I like.
Yes. Where's Anya and Kyle? There's Kyle. There's Anya. I don't know if the people at home can see any of these people. So Anya is...
I see it. They can see them.
Okay, good. Anya is the executive producer of our morning show, but she also edits and helps us put together the podcast, and she is literally the one who keeps Andrew and I sharp and on our toes and makes us look as good as we do. Then we have Kyle, who is a morning show producer. But I'm really happy to report.
Let's not even go here. Let's
stop. The morning show hates me for this, but Kyle is an amazing producer, and I stole him. And he's coming night side. He's coming to be my producer for WMBF News at 6. So I'm super pumped about Kyle. We've got Alan Marcus, our 5 o'clock producer, who has done a tremendous job this week. Jenna, the weather intern.
We're putting her to work today.
We're putting her to work. She's been here with us for 2 weeks, and I think she's...
May I add, her mom is also watching from New York. No, Florida, New York. I almost ruined that. I almost said New York, Florida.
Jenna's grandparents were here earlier, but they had to leave. And then we have Will in the very back. Will, a lot of you know Will from Will's Weather. He has his own weather station. He's 17. He's like a weather genius. I always joke that when I was 16 and 17, I was like throwing rocks at girls and picking my nose. And this guy is doing weather from his basement and making money off of it and has sponsors and has been here for the past 3 days helping out. So huge thanks to Will and Jenna and everybody else who came out. You're all super VIPs.
Yeah, super VIPs. Also, before we even get into
whatever we're going to
this episode is going to be, can we give it up for our behind-the-scenes crew all week long? We have Dustin, we have George, we have Cameron, we have Hunter. There's Nico somewhere. Nico, there he is.
Nico
somewhere over there. They've made us look great all week.
So Nico is an intern with our promotions department. This is his first week, and he has done some of the craziest stuff. He was literally holding a tarp over our head Monday and again yesterday to keep us from getting wet when it started to rain during the newscast. all that on his internship. And I know these people will never turn the camera on themselves.
Yeah.
But we couldn't do it without any of these people.
And we don't know how to work a camera.
We don't know how to work a camera. I stay away from cameras. But yeah, super huge thanks to these people because we've been doing this every single day, at least the newscast portion, on the road since Monday for hours and hours and hours and hours.
How tired are you?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little tired.
Tomorrow I'm wearing glasses,
Yep.
not contacts.
Yep.
You'll see me Friday morning
Yeah.
with glasses on. I do want to say to everyone watching at home, thank you. We appreciate you tuning in as well. This is really cool. So let's talk about Are You Cirrus?
Are You Cirrus?
And then we'll get into the questions.
Yeah.
Did you ever think it would culminate
I didn't.
to this?
I didn't. We thought, let's try this podcast thing. I'd never even seen a podcast. I'd never listened to a podcast. And then we're like, let's do a podcast. Like we knew what we were doing. So we came up with this. We started this. Still don't really know what we're doing.
No.
But the important thing is we were like having the best time. I love my job. But when I come in to record a podcast, we just have a blast and we go with it. And, you know, sometimes we got to be a little buttoned up on the news. Mm-hmm. We get to kind of relax a little bit, be ourselves, and just have a good time with the podcast. And we are 15 episodes in.
15 in.
And we are so happy.
Yeah, over 4,000 views on YouTube now, so give it up for that. We
4,000,
love that.
Yep, we love that.
We have people tuning in from all states, all countries. I think it's 8 countries now.
We have a listener in Iran.
So we'll take whatever
No,
we
seriously.
can get.
Right.
Also, Spotify and Apple. So if you're listening to this after, what we're going to do here, Jamie and I have no idea what this episode is going to be like because they're going to dictate
Y'all
everything.
are driving this one.
They're driving it all. I will say it all comes from our beautiful new painted box.
Yep.
It's no longer a Hobby Lobby box.
Right.
So thank you, Anya, for that, for making us look good. But this is going to be all based on them. We told them to bring the questions.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to ask.
Rose already has an entire stack of paper cutout questions. So we could probably do an entire podcast just on Rose's questions.
This is
right?
Rose's questions.
This is
what
Rose.
You need to know.
Right.
So what we're going to do here is we have Jenna with the mic. Jenna's going to go around, and let's just, I guess, one question at a time.
Just figure it out. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be
out.
weather-related. It doesn't have to be hurricane-related. Let's have some fun. We got like 45 minutes to hang out, play around, get to know each other. And that's kind of what we wanted from this podcast.
Audio is great. We can see everyone is what Susan says. Cirrus says, this is awesome. And Summer says, I miss you all. Hey, Cirrus. So
Summer and Cirrus, a couple of our loyal podcast premiere watchers on YouTube who are there every single night. I know what we forgot to do. We forgot to ask a question.
What was the question? Oh, yeah.
Who has either seen or listened to all 15 episodes? Gonna throw one there. Oh my gosh, there's a breeze. One there. We need some more koozies.
All 15.
All 15. So huge thank you. So we definitely got to get one to Mark too.
Can we ask this too? I'm going to ask it. What was your favorite episode?
Favorite episode? Let us know.
Funnel. The tornadoes? Yeah, no. Oh, the cone.
The cone. The
Okay.
cone. That was a good
the cone
episode.
Was good. What else did we like?
Everybody's getting one.
What was that in the back?
I'm
the
like
grilled cheese, Matt B.
I'm like Oprah. You get a koozie, and you get a koozie.
And the show's going off the rails. We have, they said, Matt Bullock's grilled cheese.
Grilled cheese. We love Matt Bullock.
The cone. Anybody else want to speak up on your favorite episode?
Darion. We love Darion.
The singing karaoke machine.
We love Darion so much. Second best dressed man. Are you serious?
Are you serious?
Yep. We love Darion. I know. Well, he's probably asleep.
He's probably already asleep.
He's got to be up early in the morning. So.
Well. Yeah. We'll see.
Me and Andrew don't sleep.
We don't.
Give us an hour or two, and we're good to go.
So let's get started.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
If you have questions on YouTube, let us know. I'm going to be looking at that. So
I'm over here.
We don't know how to do a full crowd. We also have people behind the scenes as well. Let's go ahead and open the floor. Jenna, I'm going to put you in charge of whoever you want to hand the mic to.
Go first.
And we're going to see where this
goes. We
got
to start with Rose. If we don't start with her, we'll never get through all of her questions.
Slicks. Oh, Lordy.
All right, so we all know that Jamie loves cold weather.
Yes.
Loves his winter weather. And I have family in North Dakota and Alaska where it's really cold and really snowy. Would you want to forecast that type of weather all the time?
No. I like Now, North Dakota, maybe, because North Dakota gets the big swings. They get crazy cold winters. They get the hot summers. They get good severe weather. So I could probably do that. Alaska, I don't know. That might be pushing it a little bit for me.
There's plenty of times when you post something and my cousin's in Alaska, in Fairbanks,
Yeah.
I'll tag them. And then they'll reply back, and we'll have a little WMBF in Alaska, South Carolina. And it's crazy. Whenever she comes here, she loves it. But she says, I have to come in like December or January because it's too hot.
Right.
Because their body temperatures
They're
are just
not-
used to
can't
4
handle it.
below
I totally get it.
on Monday.
Yeah.
Okay.
North Dakota, yes. Alaska, no.
As
But I
someone who
do-
came from the snow? No.
Alaska is next on my cold weather vacation list.
Haven't been there yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. I'm trying.
I can point out
Yeah.
some places.
All
Good
right.
question. All right, let's go to someone else here, Jenna. Who do you want to go to?
I know Mark has questions.
He's
Oh, wait,
probably-
Dan has one.
Oh.
I want to go non-weather.
Okay.
Oh,
I want to know, what was your most epic fail on live TV? Could it have been a fall? Could you have done a broadcast with your fly down the entire time? Like, what is your most viral moment? That could have been the most viral moment.
I think we've actually discussed a few of these. I have done the weather with my fly down. I've done the weather with somehow the
Dracula look.
the
Where it's
collar
like
on my
this?
jacket was popped the whole time.
Yeah.
And for
Mhm.
3.5 minutes, no one bothered to tell me. I fell live on the air once. This was at a previous TV station. I've told the story. I was walking from the green screen to the desk, so I was off camera, but I felt like my hair wasn't as good as I wanted it to be that day. So as I was walking, again, I'm off camera, so nobody can see this. I pick up a mirror, and I'm trying to fix my hair as I'm walking. And as I'm fixing my hair, I stumble over a step. And so all you hear is me fall, and all of the wind come out of me. And then you hear me bite my tongue to keep from saying something that could get the FCC involved. But yeah, so that was probably one of my biggest on-air fails.
So I've done the fly down before.
Yeah.
I feel like we all have.
Yeah.
The worst one for me actually happened here, and it was like year one, probably 6 months in. We have these things we call motivators.
Yep.
And in the morning, you go get coffee, you do whatever you need to after you do first weather, because there's a lot of hits in the morning.
Yeah.
It's like 18 hits in 2 hours. Well, I had to go to the bathroom. So Andrew's supposed to go to the motivator, and all of a sudden you hear the trickle of water, which is me
Wasn't the sink
going
running.
to the restroom.
Yeah.
And, I was supposed to do, rain chances increasing, and all you hear is
Rain.
Andrew.
Yeah.
Rain. And now, because of that, I take my mic off every time I go, but I'll sometimes forget to put it on.
Yeah.
So if you ever see me and you don't hear audio, it's because I probably went to
I've had the same thing happen, and I took the same. If I try at all costs to avoid going to the bathroom during a newscast, but if I absolutely must, the microphone comes off. I want it off my body just to avoid that happening.
Yeah, it was awful.
Good
And I
question,
got a couple
Danny.
of viewer message. Good question.
Me into the question I had about your mic. There are times when we look at you guys and you're like this, but you're not. We don't hear you. Is that exactly? You just forgot to put your mic back on? Or,
It's either we forgot to put it on, a battery will die, sometimes a mic will just malfunction,
Gotcha.
and we'll try to get it back up. I'm the world's worst at turning it off to have a conversation with somebody and then forgetting to turn it back on.
Gotcha.
So that's usually the excuse for me.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I've had that happen too, where it's
Yeah.
like because I've also had it happen where you're talking about so how was your weekend? What did you do? And then once again,
It's going over the air.
it's going over the air. So I turned
Yeah.
mine off as well. So I like that question.
Yeah.
All right, where are we going next? Here we go. Get your thinking
I
cap
know,
ready.
right? I'm
Here
scared.
We go.
Jamie Andrew, Doppler radar.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
You were expecting this. Multi-point question, but I'll try to be succinct. Where does it come from that we see? Do you manipulate it as far as the color of intensities? And is it the same across all the different platforms like your competition, Weather Channel, etc.? So, and then, to follow that up, future radar. Who's doing the colorization and the prediction for future radar?
all right. I'm going to take
Wanna do rock,
radar.
paper, scissors?
I'm going to take radar. I'm going to let you take future radar.
Cool.
So if you're watching us on television or any of the other local stations in town, What you were seeing is the National Weather Service radar. Their radar Doppler tower is located just across the border in Charlotte. It's operated by the National Weather Service office in Wilmington, which covers all of our area, but also covers the area sort of up around Wilmington. So that's why it's kind of right in the middle. Our system that we use to show you the forecast takes kind of the raw data, which isn't as viewer friendly as most people would like, kind of smooths it out, makes it a little prettier, makes it into sort of the typical radar that you're used to seeing, where like light green is, light rain, and then you kind of ramp up to oranges and reds and purples, and when you start getting into purples and blacks, you got some bad stuff going on.
So you put the colorization in.
It comes that way, and we just select which one we want it to look like.
Yeah.
We want
There's
this one.
Couple of color tables.
There's a couple of different color tables, but it's all the same data. It's just making it viewer friendly. If it weren't, if you were to look at pure radar data, especially when you're zoomed in really close, it's kind of pixelated. It's pixelated, so we smooth it out a little just to kind of give it a cleaner presentation on the air.
I love this question, and we could spend a whole episode on it.
Yeah.
Because Jamie and I are like graphics gurus. Yep. It's a station preference. So there's some stations in the country that use blue for rain instead of green. It's a color palette, so it comes out. We try to make it look very similar to our app. In the way of future radar, and I'm a firm believer, we have a ton of model outputs, right? So we have the HRRR, the graph, the in-house. I'm a firm believer with sticking with the model that you're most confident in. So, for instance, I might be forecasting a 40% chance of rain, but the HRRR, the HRRR, shows nothing. Well, I'm probably not going to use that, to be honest. I'm going to stick with what I feel confident based off the education I have. I feel like you're the same way. The models, because not every model's right? And that's why we still have a job. If they were right, we probably wouldn't be here. But then, to add to that, especially summertime, sometimes we'll use the composite on future radar just to give it a little bit more oomph, because sometimes with the precip type, an afternoon storm day would look more like a light shower.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, I gave it a little bit more oomph to where you saw the reds and oranges in it.
Basically like turning the dial up a little bit.
Yeah, just saying, hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so you know, because if I know as a viewer, based off research, if you see light green, you're going to think, oh, that's light rain. When in reality, I know in my forecast, hey, there's going to be some heavy downpours today. So I'm going to give that a little bit more dialed up. So then that way, if you're watching me in the morning, oh, hey, there could be some pockets of heavy rain this afternoon. I probably need to stay aware. So for me, it's like, okay, what do I think is going to happen today? And how does that model kind of tell the story, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
It's a really good question.
And I'm going to tell you a fun story about what happens to me during this time of the year when we're in daylight saving time, is that I start my newscast at 5, and so from 5 to 6, the future radar that I show is usually the one that has come out a little bit earlier in the day. Well, it just so happens that the latest model run comes out and gets complete right around 6 o'clock. So there are some times where I forget to go back and check, and I will get into my main weather, and future radar looks completely different than it did 1 hour ago. And there's a lot of, these short-range models, the high-resolution models especially, can change a lot literally in 1 or 2 hours. So that's kind of something I have to watch for.
To wrap up the Doppler side, it seems recently you've been showing ocean breeze.
Yep.
And that seems new for us as viewers. Is that so, and why are you doing it?
It's definitely not new.
Okay.
Sea breeze is as old as the sea,
well,
literally.
But for the visual depiction on your Doppler radar.
Because I think we have a really smart audience.
Yeah,
I think we have a weather savvy audience. And I used to dial the radar back to make the sea breeze disappear just so that I didn't have to address it.
The reflector.
And every time I would have to say, well, here's the sea breeze. That's where the cool air comes in on a hot. But now people know what the sea breeze is. Even here in Conway, most summer days, you get the sea breeze that comes this far inland. Some days it makes it all the way to Florence. Pretty much every summer day, it's going to blow through the beach. And people know what it is. They know that it sparks thunderstorms. They know that it kind of cools it off at the beach in the afternoon and brings in that nice breeze. So I'm more comfortable, and I feel like our viewers are open to or aware enough now to know what the sea breeze is without us having to really get in depth with it every time.
I think, too, this podcast has proven that.
Yeah. We got smart people. We got smart people. We've been stumped a couple times.
The questions, I'm like, okay, that's good. And that sea breeze, too, in the summer, it's very important because sometimes we could show composite reflectivity, which is dialed up a little bit, just to say, hey, we're watching the sea breeze for maybe some storms to pop up. And that kind of gets us a talking point for you. I don't really deal with the sea breeze.
Right, yeah. In the morning, we don't have a sea breeze.
But that's more of a you thing. Yeah. That's a really good question, Mark. Really good. All right,
we could do a whole other podcast on the sea breeze. Maybe we'll do that for season 2 because the sea breeze will make or break a forecast. Yes, sir.
Hey.
2 questions.
What's your name?
George.
I remember. I thought you came. He brought us donuts this morning.
2 questions. One, what was the lowest barometric pressure registered in Myrtle? And 2, how come you don't show that like on your forecasts?
You Google it. Let's see how right I am.
Okay, I got
I'm going to say either. I'm not going to give you the exact reading. It was either. It might have been the superstorm of '93, which is surprising because that was March, or I don't think it was Hugo. It might have been Hugo. I'll get it. What was the second part?
Why don't you show that like in your regular? I know you're limited for space.
Limited for space, limited for time. As people, in most cases, and I don't want to make it sound like we're dumbing down, but we're dumbing down. The vast majority of our audience, outside of you really incredibly smart people, want to know, is it going to rain this weekend, and am I going to be able to go to the beach on Saturday? That's literally all they care about. Current conditions, what the temperature is right now, what the barometric pressure is. If we start saying that, you know what happens to people? They
turn us off.
They literally glaze over. They glaze over. So, we keep that information like it's on the app. You can find it there. But as far as in our 2 minutes that we have to say the forecast for the next 7 days, it's way down the list.
Okay.
As far as importance.
They were smart and they all realized how important knowing that dew point is.
I know.
They
Same
would
thing
be
with dew point.
Yes,
Same
dew point. Dew point is my go-to.
Right.
I love that.
Yep.
I'd have to hop into actual National Weather Service website to get that. So that's not a Google.
We're gonna get back into that one. I think it was March 13th, 1993.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Storm of the century.
It wouldn't surprise me at all.
All right, next. Oh, we got one from Alan Marcus. Oh.
I'm monitoring the call.
Alan Marcus, I love it.
Who do I want to go to?
It doesn't matter. Whoever you're close to first.
I'm coming to you first.
My name's Kent. I live here in Conway.
Yep.
When we get the river levels during a storm, what is that number reference to? Like 21.75. What is that measured from?
That is against the average normal river level. So right now we're running about normal. I haven't looked recently. We might be a little bit low.
He's got it pulled up.
So we're at 7 feet. So we're about, which is I think about normal for the Waccamaw.
Just barely
so is that 7 feet above sea level, or
that is
or is it an arbitrary number?
It's kind of an arbitrary number. I'm not sure where the reading is taken on the Waccamaw. Right down there. Somewhere over there, the U.S. Geological Survey and the Southeast River Forecast Center basically has a stick in the water with a marker on it. It's digital, but that's how they're managing to measure where the river is at any given time and any given day. They also have a lot of other measurements, like how much water, cubic feet per second, is flowing through the Waccamaw. All of that is provided somewhere down there. And then there's another one on the Waccamaw, I think, up at Long's.
Yeah.
There's 2 of them. Yep. That's where that
7
come
feet
from.
is about average for this one. And I would basically say that's your base. And then what we can do, and what's beautiful about that, is we can go back to those storms of Matthew and Florence and look at what those levels were at that base or at that base in Longs.
Yeah.
So that helps us out in conveying the message to you all. Because right now when we say, hey, it's at 7 feet, No one cares.
So for the Waccamaw, 7 feet is about normal. 11 feet is flood stage.
Yeah.
So when the river reaches 11 feet, it starts to really fill in the swamps, and I think that's when you start to get water in the yards down in Pitch Landing and River Landing in those areas. Flooding starts at 11 feet. 2018 in Florence, the Waccamaw hit 21.5 feet. So that gives you an idea of just how incredible Florence was.
I love that question. Thank you, Kent.
Did you still have your question?
Well, so my question was part of Kent's question.
Oh.
So I have an 18-year-old who, and we own this restaurant, and so she asks all the time, why is our restaurant flooding when storm surges and things from hurricanes aren't directly affecting us, but we're flooding?
Yes.
So I think you just kind of answered it, but
Why it floods here?
yeah, why it floods?
Well,
Where-
recently, for both Matthew and for Florence, the heaviest of the rain from both of those hurricanes fell on the headwaters of the Waccamaw. So you get up across the border into Robeson County, Columbus County, Bladen County, those areas. That's where in Florence in 2018, they had 30 to 40 inches of rain. All of that rainwater started to drain into the creeks, which drained into the Waccamaw, which made it down here about 2 weeks after all that rain fell, because the Waccamaw, just moves at a snail's pace. Same thing happened with Matthew, slightly different location, but the heaviest of the rain just happened to fall on the headwaters of the Waccamaw River. So it was a really long stretch of bad luck, even in 15, because we had 15, 16, and then 18 with the floods on the Waccamaw.
Yeah.
And they were all, did that help?
Yes,
It did?
It's less storm surge and more heavy rain for you all.
for us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Storm surge,
Can happen.
in an absolute worst case scenario, Category 4, direct hit southern Horry County, we can back storm surge all the way up the Waccamaw into Conway. But that's literally everything lining up 100% perfectly. What happens once you get downstream of the Waccamaw, and this is where flooding gets really complicated, and I learned so much in 18, was you have the Waccamaw that meets up with the intracoastal waterway. And if the intracoastal waterway is full of storm surge and you have all the rain flood water coming down the Waccamaw, it backs up. So that's how it flooded in places like Socastee. That's how the waterway was flooded for weeks after Florence, because you had all this water coming together and it couldn't get out. And it just backed up. And that's why some spots up here, as you know, were flooded for a month before the water went down.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Alan Marcus, online question.
The first one comes from Riley.
The first one.
How
I'm
do
pretty sure
hurricanes
Riley
form?
just came in.
There's Riley.
Hey, Riley. What was the question from Riley?
How hurricanes form,
Okay.
which leads into Suzanne's question. Does every hurricane start over the ocean?
Every hurricane absolutely starts over the ocean.
Yeah.
You cannot have a hurricane if you do not have water temperatures over the Atlantic Ocean of 80 degrees or warmer.
Yeah. And basically what happens is we get those short waves or we get those disturbances off the coast of Africa.
Yep.
So to answer your question, Riley, basically clusters of thunderstorms off Africa get transported into the Atlantic, and with that, warm water temperatures start to take these areas and clusters of thunderstorm and develop what we call, here in the United States, low-pressure systems.
Yep.
So you get a strong low and a really warm water, and you start to get tropical depression, tropical storm, hurricane pretty quickly if the waters are warm enough. And it really, the main development region is right off the coast of Africa. So there's other ones, but for us, that's the one we watch closely.
Yep.
Good questions.
There's
We got
one more.
One more.
This one's from Ellen on Facebook. If you're not in an evacuation zone like in Longs, do you stay put?
You absolutely stay put. This is something we've been trying to drive home all week long. So you said this was Ellen? Yeah. All right, Ellen and Longs. If you talk to your neighbors, if you didn't flood in 2018 or in 2016 from Matthew or Florence, then I want you to stay put. If you live outside of an evacuation zone, you are going to survive a hurricane in your house, even a bad one. It may not be fun. Let's say, worst case scenario, we get a Category 3 or a Category 4 120 mile per hour winds, even here in Conway. It's going to be noisy. It's going to be awful, but your house is going to make it. You're going to survive it. You're not going to survive the storm surge. So that's why I always say run from water, hide from wind. The only reason you evacuate is for storm surge. If you're outside of a storm surge zone or an evacuation zone and you evacuate, you're one more car on the road, you're one more cot in a shelter, you're one more hotel room that somebody who has actually evacuated needed. We ran into this problem in Florence. How many of you evacuated for Florence? How many of you are here for Florence? All right, but none of you did because you're all Conway people. Good. Basically, all of Carolina Forest evacuated for Florence, and they didn't need to. And that just gave us a really unnecessary traffic jam, really slowed things down for the people who really needed to get out for that.
And I think sometimes it gets a misconception of everyone just assumes they're in an evacuation zone.
Yeah.
I was talking to a couple. They're not here anymore, otherwise I wouldn't have said this. But they said, so I guess I'm in C. And I'm like, well, where do you live? They were like, well, we're up near Coastal Carolina University. I said, oh, no, you're good.
Yeah.
You don't have to leave.
Yeah.
And you'll be fine.
You'll be fine.
It's gonna be terrible
Yeah.
if it's a Cat 4.
Yeah.
But you'll be fine.
You'll be fine. And that's why we always say if you're not in an evacuation zone, your hurricane plan needs to be on keeping yourself fed and watered for 3 days.
Yeah.
You need to assume 3 days. In an absolute worst case scenario, and again, let's say, God forbid, we take a direct hit from a Category 4, it may take 3 days to get resources in. And again, that's worst case scenario. We've all dealt with the ones, we've dealt with the little ones, a day or two where things are kind of disrupted like Matthew, like Ian, but a big one, it's going to be weeks and weeks and weeks. Now the stuff will come in, but those first 3 days are what you need to prepare yourself for, and then you have to take into account what are your specific needs.
Yeah.
Do you have an elderly person who is on oxygen? In that case, should you evacuate? Maybe. Are you frail? Are you ill? Things like that. You have to make your own plan. You start with the basics and then break it down to what's specific to you.
I also think, too, and I tell people this all the time, and I don't say it because, this is what we do, but at the end of the day, Cat 4, guess where we're going to be?
Yeah.
If we're going to be there, you'll be fine.
Yeah. We're going to be at work. We're going to be at work.
We're going to be right along the beach.
We're going to be at work.
Figuring it out. For sure. That looks delicious.
I know. I see what they're sharing. They're sharing drinks over there.
Over here talking
She's
about
holding a water
hurricanes,
bottle, but
she's having one of her own.
Yeah.
Judy's got a question.
Wait, I'm
Oh, wait,
Right.
Judy's coming to you. What'd you say?
No, I'm saying that you be okay as long as we have your grilled cheese sandwich.
That's right. Keep the grilled cheeses coming. And I have to say, kudos to WMBF News because I've been here 15 years now, and every hurricane, we don't eat as good as we do when there's a hurricane coming in.
We're snacking. We're
It
munching.
is just a nonstop supply
Shout
of
out
food,
to
whether
our
it's from
manager.
Rose or the people who work there. We've had kitchens set up in our studio, and
We bought a Blackstone. You remember that?
yeah, we've had people flipping pancakes and cooking steaks during hurricane coverage. So we're eating good.
Just a quick question about what has to happen to make you guys decide Thursday is going to be a first alert weather day. Because I want to tell you, when I see that, I am prepared. I'm loving it. I have literally watched you guys for 24 hours on a first alert day. So what makes you decide that? And second part, what happens if you call that on Monday, but Wednesday comes and you're like, oh, crap, we got to pull back?
I'd love to do an interactive question here, too, on this.
Yeah, go for it.
So if we call a first alert weather day on Monday for Thursday, what's your thoughts, Rose? Repeat it one more time.
Just what makes you decide
Okay.
that
But
it's
when you see us say, let's say today, what's
And
today?
we highlight
Thursday?
it red.
We say
Right.
Sunday's a first alert weather day.
Right.
What does that mean to you?
it means you better be on guard. Something's coming.
What does that mean to y'all?
Same?
To be aware of what's going on.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, let me ask you this. If we look at the data and by Tuesday night, we take the first alert weather day away, what does that say to you all then? This is me brainstorming here.
Oh, I do not think it means that you got it wrong.
Okay.
I think that changes have happened and you realize, hey, we don't need to call it a first alert weather day. Take the red away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
you can answer now.
So first alert weather days, and there are many There are many variations of First Alert Weather Days. I'm sure we all watch all the stations in all the cities, whatever. It has a bunch of different names. Some stations do it all the time.
Yeah.
Great. Some stations do it very sparingly. Everybody has their own threshold, their own ideas. In a place where we can get some pretty wild weather, like around here on the summer, on a sometimes daily basis, some of our summer thunderstorms have been worse than some of the tropical storms we've had to deal with. I'm not going to call it a First Alert Weather Day. For us to declare something as a First Alert Weather Day, we think long and hard about, is this something weather-wise that is going to really impact our viewers? Whether it's their safety, whether it's their day-to-day planning, is it a holiday?
That's big.
Is it? We don't have a set threshold. Remember back at Christmas. Remember that really crazy cold front that came through on Christmas Eve, and the temperature dropped like 40 degrees in 3 hours, and the wind was blowing 50 to 60 miles per hour, and it was Christmas Eve. We did a First Alert Weather Day for that because it's Christmas Eve. People are out. They're going to the stores. They're doing things. People are busy, and a 40-degree temperature drop and 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts is going to catch people off guard if they don't know what's going on. So we've done it for things like that. We've done it for tornado outbreaks. Obviously, we'll do it for a hurricane. But, as Andrew is alluding to, sometimes what looks like a severe weather outbreak 4 days away fades into nothing. And we take it back. And I always say, well, we're still first alerting.
Yeah.
We're just first alerting that it's not going to happen anymore, which is good. You know, we try to be transparent. The number one thing that I get, I'm going off on a tangent. Bear with me.
You're fine.
This is what
I
happens.
haven't made my signal yet.
Andrew has a signal to kick me if I get too violent. yeah, and Anya she knows to throw a rock at me. The number one thing that I get is, especially when we have something big, so do you really think it's going to snow? Do you really think that hurricane is going to hit us? Do you really? But really? Yeah, I'm not on air saying it. Just to say it, because if I'm saying it and knowing it's not going to happen, well, that's not going to make me look very good. So we always say, when we say it, you know, when we know it, you know it. We're not holding anything back. We're not hiding anything. We try to be transparent. If we don't know, we'll say, this one's a toughie. You know, stick with this one. This one's tough.
I don't wish, but I also wish you could see, like, the constant communication between the weather team. It's like, Thursday, we may need to keep an eye on that. Next day, never mind.
Yeah, never mind. Yeah.
And then there's some days where it's like, I don't know, 50-50, let's see.
Yeah.
And then we try to give the earliest first alert, but we also want to make sure people are prepared to where it's going to verify or it's needed. It's warranted.
Yeah.
So we don't want to be the boy who cried wolf all the time, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, that was fun.
That was fun.
All right.
I love it.
Okay, I got a question. When the wind is blowing, how do you measure that correctly? Like the gentleman over there was saying about the stick in the water.
Yeah.
How do we actually really measure the wind coming in from a hurricane?
So we have two measurements for wind. We have every station. Basically, if you look at our current temperature map on air, it says Myrtle Beach 53, whatever the temperature is. Those sensors also have what we call anemometers, which measure wind speed. Those are the ones that tell us, hey, the wind is blowing and gusting up to whatever. And then for direction, we could tell because they have the wind vane. Some of them look like the old classic rooster with others of them are very small, and it just kind of tells you what it's blowing. And what happens is as the wind blows that, underneath that anemometer is picking up what it looks like a fan, and based off the number of rotations tells us, okay, hey, the wind is this. So all those sensors are programmed with that, which feed back in, thank God, because could you imagine if we didn't have that?
Yeah, it's an anemometer is basically three little cups.
Yep.
And as the wind blows, they just spin, and the faster they spin, there's some...
like a meter.
Yeah, it just spins and spins, and the faster the wind blows, the
off
faster
it's
it spins.
Yep.
Yep.
Good question.
Tough thing is, and we ran into this with Hurricane Florence, Hurricane Ian, getting my storms mixed up, highest wind gust during Hurricane Ian in Myrtle Beach was, I think, 60 miles per hour. In North Myrtle Beach, I think, was 61 miles per hour. Andrew and I, the day after Ian, rode up through North Myrtle Beach, and were absolutely convinced that the winds were probably closer to like 80 miles per hour. There was just, from about barefoot landing all the way to Cherry Grove along the ocean front, the wind damage was honestly worse than what we saw with Matthew, which we had reported winds of 75 to 80 miles per hour. And we were both convinced that that area had hurricane force winds. The National Weather Service came down a couple days later. They confirmed it. And then there were a few private, like you've all probably heard of, like Weather Underground. Some people have little home weather stations on their roof or whatever, and there were a couple of those up there that measured 80 to 85 mile per hour winds. So that was like a little wind for me that we kind of confirmed that. But as far as official data goes, we have to go with what these official sites go for. And in our area, it's Myrtle Beach, North Myrtle Beach. Conway has a station, a sensor, and then Georgetown. But the rest of the gaps we kind of have to fill in.
Yeah. Salt questions over here.
When they decide to do the lane reversal on 501, that decision's made obviously up the block at emergency management.
Yep.
Do they take all their information from Wilmington, or do they take into consideration the certified most accurate forecast?
Oh, thank goodness.
I don't want that pressure.
I don't want the pressure. Evacuation orders and all of the information as far as lane reversals basically comes from the governor's level. The governor is the only one who can issue an evacuation order. So there's a whole system in place that when he does that, then everything else falls into place. I think the only time they do the lane reversals are when we have all three zones that are ordered to evacuate. So we did that in Florence. We didn't do it for Matthew because it was just zone A. But it's literally a process, and it trickles down to the local level, and we have nothing to do with it. Just like we have nothing to do with closing schools when it looks like it might snow flurry. Danny?
So I'm with State Farm Insurance.
Uh-oh.
Plug, Dan Fidelli,
Yeah,
State
right.
Farm.
Got it.
Well, during
our first ad on Are You Serious?
Right?
We'll send you a bill.
Yeah. So obviously during this time of year, I have a lot of conversations with our customers about protecting their homes from from hurricanes, and I get a lot of the comments saying, "Oh, I've lived through Hurricane Hugo and nothing happened," or "I lived through Florence and nothing happened." And staying on the same lane of like wind speeds. In your opinion, have the residents of Myrtle Beach and Conway become complacent on the true wind speeds that they've experienced or not experienced, and they think that they have?
Absolutely.
Good question.
Absolutely. Now I'm going to turn it on y'all. Who can I pick on? My two ladies here from Conway. And I kind of gave this away. You were here for Ian. You were here for Matthew. How strong did you think the winds were for Matthew here in Conway? Give me a number.
Sudi can do it.
They're right. They're
80?
about 8. Yeah.
About 80?
Yeah.
Matthew, yes.
Matthew in 2016. You think about 80. Okay. Yeah. All right. What about Ian last year?
No, I don't think it was that.
Yeah.
It wasn't as bad.
Yeah. Most people have no idea. The only people who have any idea, at least in this area, how bad a real hurricane can be with real wind are the ones who were here for Hazel.
And Hugo.
I want you
Even Hugo, though. I mean, it probably wasn't bad, but as bad, but.
Peak winds in Myrtle Beach and Conway from Hurricane Hugo were 75 miles per hour.
Really?
Same as Matthew.
Wow.
Same as Matthew. Hugo was a Category 4 hurricane, but it hit 70 miles south of here. That's where the big wind was. 75 miles per hour, that'll certainly do the damage. It blew down to trees. It did the damage. But nobody here, except unless you were here for Hazel, know the Market Common, what used to be the old Air Force Base during Hurricane Hazel, gusted to 130 miles per hour. So just imagine that day that Matthew hit, and we were gusting to 80 miles per hour. Did it not feel like every tree in the world was going to blow down?
No.
Your house was shaking, you know? So imagine 130 miles per hour, you know? Yeah. So people.
And Hazel was what year?
Hazel was 1954 as a Category 4 hurricane, and it brought 130 to 150 mile per hour winds up and down the beaches. We haven't had anything close. We've had a lot of 70 and 80 and sometimes 90 mile per hour gusts. Florence was a Category 4 offshore. You were flooded, but we're talking about wind. Talking about wind, though. As far as experiencing hurricane force winds, this area has no idea, honestly, what a really powerful direct hit can bring wind-wise. It's crazy. Water is usually much worse.
Good question.
Go ahead.
Hey, so I have a question about something completely different than hurricanes. Is that
Love
okay?
it. Let's take a hurricane break.
So in 2009 we had a really big wildfire.
Yes, April 2009.
Highway 31 wildfire.
Yep.
And so I guess I have to admit I don't always watch the news. I'm a busy mom, working mom. Anyway, I was just wondering is there something in the forecast that alerts people or just talks about wildfire risk, maybe sort of over in that area, like on the Lewis Ocean Bay Heritage Preserve, where they have to do prescribed fires, and then there might be drought, and there might be like fuels built up, and winds, and I was just wondering if y'all ever talk about that in the news.
Really fantastic question, and there for a couple of years after that 2009 fire, I was obsessed with wildfires, forest fires. Like, how in this area do we get a 30,000 acre wildfire? Second biggest wildfire in South Carolina's history. And the National Weather Service actually has an amazing meteorologist on staff, and they make, especially in February, March, April, during those fire weather seasons, make fire weather forecasts every day. And you've probably heard us talking about a fire weather watch or a red flag warning. That's coming from them, and that basically says, all right, don't burn, don't do it. And now you've probably noticed you get a lot of smoke around here from that area in March and April. That is those prescribed burns to get rid of that understory, to keep any fire that does develop from burning. Forest fires are going to happen. They're part of the forest ecosystem. You need fires to keep a forest going, but you have to also manage them. Awesome.
It's a really good question. In eastern Kentucky, when I was over there, low dew points, plenty of wind, and a drought.
Yeah.
And you'll have a forest fire in 7 days.
Yeah. Yeah. That day, the day of the 2009 wildfire, it was about 88. Humidity was nothing, and we had winds that day like 40 to 45 miles per hour. Bright sunshine, no storm or anything. It was just hot and windy, and the dude burned some leaves in his backyard, and he didn't put it out, and one spark, and 30,000 acres later. Yeah.
Let's do two more.
We have another one from
Michelle. Are evacuations wind-driven or water-driven?
Water, water, water.
Always.
Water, water, water. Run from water, hide from wind.
Well, water is for the storm surge, not inland. Yeah.
Right, so you know all about water. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Storm surge, though, evacuation zones, we're talking like for the beach, for people who live in like A, B, and C, for storm surge. Yeah, I know. I'm aware. Yeah, I know. I'm very aware. Next question. Alan Marcus, we got another one.
Do you have another one, Rose? No.
Not this episode.
I've got one for you.
Yep.
Continuing with the hurricane break, what is y'all's favorite type of weather to forecast?
It depends on the season. It depends on, like in the winter, I'm all about, I start forecasting. I love to look for any opportunity I can for like ice or snow. But then like late February and March, I'm starting to get the severe weather itch. And then by like May, I'm like, all right, bring on hurricane season. I'm ready to start seeing things bubble up in the Atlantic. And then all the way through summer and fall, I'm all about the hurricanes.
Severe weather.
He's severe weather.
Severe thunderstorms. That's me. Summertime from May to August.
Yeah.
SPC, glued to it.
Yeah.
That's how I am.
Yeah.
I've been glued the past couple of days.
Oh, yeah. Crazy.
So-
We're always keeping up with weather all over the place. Oh, we got one other one?
Let's end with one more here with Judy.
One more. Why do leaves turn upside down?
Say that again?
Why do the leaves turn upside down?
Barometric pressure. Yeah, there's an old wives' tale, especially silver maple leaves and the leaves of the ginkgo trees turn upside down before it rains. And that's just a very subtle drop in the pressure is just enough to kind of call those leaves to flip upside down. Yeah. Wait, one more. Rose says that's
I have one
easy.
more.
I got
No.
Then we wrap.
No, that leads to a very good question, and you say it every year. Don't plant those spring gardens,
Yep.
those spring flowers. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's sunny out. It's great. The temperatures have warmed up.
Yep.
They plant them, and a cold front comes through, and they're like, what happened?
Every time.
Every time.
Every time we get that 80-degree day in February, everybody's like, yep, going to Lowe's. Don't do it. Don't do it. Mid-April. April 15th. I always say Easter. That's how I learned.
And do you know what I heard this year for the first time? I always heard Easter here, too. They said when the pecan trees bloom.
Yep.
When the pecan trees bloom in Horry County, you should be golden.
Then you're good to plant.
There we
Yeah.
go. Look at us.
And those are the locals who know. They know
Those
best.
are the locals that know.
They know the best.
UCLA.
Right?
You know,
UCLA. I love it.
All right, 8:27 here on our Thursday night. We've went a whole hour.
We did. Did y'all have fun? Did you?
We got up
Enjoy
to
it.
like 36 on YouTube.
All right.
And maybe we'll do another live one for season 2.
I like that.
Do we go ahead and tell them when season 2 will be?
Well, we're still working on it. So it's summer. People are taking vacations. People are off. We got a lot of stuff coming on. So we're going to take a little break from the podcast for probably through about July 4th.
Yeah.
Just kind of let everybody chill out for a minute. It's summer. So
Maybe
if you
you'll
haven't,
miss us.
Yeah, maybe you'll miss us a little bit and you'll want us to come back. And if you haven't heard them all or haven't watched them all, well, you got a couple weeks to do it, you know?
Yeah, so it's been a fun week. We're not done. Tomorrow night.
Yeah, tomorrow night we have the special, and we also have to, we can't do this again without a big thanks.
Yeah.
I didn't realize this till earlier today, but all of our places this week had a B. I don't know where my brain has been. So, Bonfire tonight.
Yep.
Bovines last night.
Yep.
Bums on Tuesday. And Buoys on Monday. Right? Isn't that crazy? So all the B restaurants that we hung out at all week, huge thanks to them. Huge thanks to everybody who came out, especially who came out here for the live podcast. This has been so fun. I hope y'all enjoyed it as much as we did.
Some of you all have been out here since 3:30, so kudos to you all.
Yeah, I got my
to
own
our
list
crew
ones
in
been
the
here
back,
since 3:30.
they've been working their tails
Mega
off.
kudos to the crew back here. Amazing.
And to everyone that couldn't make it on tonight on YouTube, do better. No,
do
just
better.
kidding.
Right, do better. Get here next
No,
time.
thank you all for tuning in as always. And I know we'll have this on Spotify and Apple. So what do we say to those people, Jamie? Do you remember?
Download, share,
subscribe,
thumbs up,
rate,
all
like.
that stuff you're supposed to do to a podcast.
Yeah, so episode 15, season 1.
Season 1 in the books.
Is done.
Thank you all so much.
This has been Are You Serious? A weather conversation between you and us. Have a good one, you all.